Okay, guys, we're finally back in the Champions League, straight into the group stages this time, and we've got a massive test first up away at the new camp. Okay, this game could be very important in determining who finishes top of this group. Okay, so just go out there, try your best, and if we can get any points, that is absolute gold. Okay, and don't mention the financial crisis while you're there. Just don't. The fans don't like it. Okay, go out there and kick some Barca butt. Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 159 of Husavik Heroes here on Shaun Does FM. I hope you are doing well, and coming up in today's episode, as you could tell by the intro, we kick off the group stages of the Champions League for 2034 away against Barcelona in a massive clash in this group, and off the back of that we're going to take on HK in the Mjólkurbikarinn final, and before that we'll check in on how they're getting on in the Europa League, as well as Fylkir after their first match in the Conference League group stages as well. So if you are looking forward to today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying this series here on the channel, also remember to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. It is greatly appreciated. But before we have a bit of a deeper look at our first game in the Champions League group stage against Barcelona, we've played a few competitive games off the back of yesterday's episode where we did have the draw. We did our squad overview, some transfers, and also kept an eye out on those other Icelandic teams in UEFA qualifying. So if you missed that episode, I'll leave a link to it in the top right corner. But off the back of our win over KA in that episode, we did beat Hafnarfjordur in the semi-final of the Icelandic Cup. That is why we are playing HK in the second game of today's episode. They picked up a win 2-0 over Nuts Chaos. So it is a top of the table clash in the Icelandic Cup final, the team in the Champions League group stage versus the team down in the Europa League. And off the back of that as well, we remained unbeaten domestically off the back of a 2-0 win against that team, which is in the Conference League this season in Fylkir. So a quick league update before we do get into this first game of today's episode. 4 games left in the season and we are 8 points clear of HK. So haven't quite wrapped up the league like we sometimes have done by the time that we do start the group stages of the Champions League, but aren't too far off it. I think 2 more wins, and that will make sure that we are champions, especially because HK are winning one of their games at the moment, 2-0 over Fram, while we are about to kick off this one against Barcelona in Spain. So not too far off clinching the league title, but it's probably going to take until tomorrow's episode for that to be confirmed. It's going to go quite late because HK having quite a good season themselves, only dropping points in 3 of their games so far. But we'll check on HK a little bit later in today's episode, as I said, as well as Fylkir off the back of the first match week of games in Europe. But this is the Champions League group, which we did get in yesterday's episode. Barcelona out of pot 1, we were out of pot 2, Ajax out of pot 3, and Shakhtar out of pot 4. As you can see, Ajax picked up a 3-0 win over Shakhtar in the early kickoff, but we take on Barcelona at the new camp in the first game of today's episode. Big game, as I said, this could be in terms of giving a team an advantage going into the remainder of this group stage. If we can pick up some points here away from home, that gives us a big chance of topping this group, and that would be nice against Barcelona, considering that quite a few years ago when we took these guys on in consecutive group stages of the Champions League, we did somewhat bottle things quite a few times against them. This was back in 2027 and 2028. We picked up draws in both of the home games, but we certainly could have won a few of those, and even some of those away games we conceded some quite late goals there, which did not help the cause. So we've actually pushed Barcelona quite close in the past in the save, albeit these days that's about 6 or 7 years ago, and we have a much stronger team than we did back then. So hopefully we can finally get the better of Barcelona and get a good advantage going into the remainder of this group stage. In terms of what we look like going into this one, just a few injuries that we still carry off the back of yesterday's episode. Mizkic and Voss out for 1 to 3 days, albeit Voss not registered for the Champions League. Neither is Tomohiro Horikawa. We couldn't quite fit some of those players into our Champions League squad. Also, Paul Stein Arnason, he's out with a pulled hamstring for 4 to 8 days as well. So a few injury concerns going into the first game of today's episode. At the very least, some of those players might be available for that cup final coming up against HK, but what that means is that we've just made one change to the team, which we did put out against KA in yesterday's episode, and that is that Shaun comes in for the injured Mizkic. And of course, I did forget as well that Louis Herrera was not starting in yesterday's game because of the foreign player rule, so he also comes back in for Premzel Bokic. But apart from that, it is exactly the same 11 that did take part in that game against KA in yesterday's episode. Pretty close to our first choice 11, just that injury to Mizkic in mind. In our bench is Bokic, Wasawa, Basicki, Frederick Larson coming in because of that injury to Mizkic, despite the fact he is down on both match sharpness and morale because he does want to leave the club. We can't let him go because he is an important homegrown club and nation player, and alongside him we have Aga Tigre, our new Argentinian striker, come right winger Fabio Mariano and Pedro Lemos to cover right back. So it's a pretty strong team. Will be interesting to see how they get on here against Barcelona, especially those new wing backs who we have just brought in for this season after getting rid of both Kenny Boreal and of course Levan Tam after last season's Champions League final. And you could say the same sort of for Jonata coming in for Chakat Traore, albeit usually that would be Mizkic there at left wing. But this is going to be a very, very interesting clash, a big one to start off the group stages of the Champions League. Barcelona currently find themselves 4th in the Liga. They did win this last season, albeit still very, very early days. Not too sure if you can read too much into that just yet, but we'll come back shortly with the team sheets and see if we can get some points here away at the new camp. And here are the team sheets for this first game of the Champions League group stage. Here is what Barcelona look like, playing the exact same formation as we are. Some very familiar names in that team, albeit they are missing Rafael Leao due to an injury, so that might be just the one injury concern that they have there was our team as we ran through before. And hopefully, as I said, we can pinch some points here on the road. And just shy of the 20-minute mark, we have our first highlight of this one. It starts off here with a free kick to Barcelona. So far, they have been well on top of us in this game. We are in the black today, of course. Barcelona at home in the blue and red. And Smith here with a great chance, tries to put that beyond Cal Vollen, but thankfully comes off the crossbar and Vollen is there to tidy things up. So there's a big chance there for Barcelona to make the most of that early dominance, but still 0-0 after 22 minutes. And we go forward now to the 28-minute mark for our next highlight. Starting to get a few more shots off here ourselves without having seen a highlight. So hopefully that continues here in this one as we park that one all the way back to Cal Vollen. He gets up to Ali Ramadan. We start to make our way inside the Barcelona half. Jonata holds things up, plays it back to Ramadan. We just knock this about our defence here as Jonata again starts to make his way into the opposition half. Lassana Doumbia goes forward. Adam Saki with the pace, puts that away in the back of the net, gets that past the Barcelona goalkeeper who came out in no man's land. And with our first real attacking threat that we've seen so far in this game, it is 1-0 Völsungur, just shy of the half-hour mark. We took our time on the ball, even if a lot of that time was inside our own half. Eventually got it forward, and Lassana Doumbia with a nice ball forward there to Saki. Too much pace for the Barca defence, puts that away, and it's 1-0 Völsungur, just shy of the 30-minute mark. And nearly 10 minutes off the back of that opening goal, we are back down the other end now for Barcelona in possession as they try and fight their way back into this one. They knock the ball about here just outside of the box, put it back in there for Gavi. Big chance there. Vollen was on the right-hand side, but blast that over the bar. And we are still 1-0 up, albeit rather fortunately, with 5 minutes left in the first half. And it is half-time here in our first game of the Champions League group stage, and we would absolutely take this result if it was blown up. Now we take a 1-0 lead into half-time with at least shots, albeit the same amount on target as Barcelona have had in our chance. The best one of the half, thankfully, Saki took it, so not too disappointed, albeit hopeful we can get on the front foot a little bit more here in the second half as we get underway with that 1-0 lead. And just over 10 minutes into the second half, we had our first highlight of it. It was Doumbia trying to play a ball over the top there, but unfortunately can't link up with Adam Saki this time, in Barcelona might get a chance here to do something on the counter-attack as they just knock the ball about here in the midfield. And Gavi, who had a big chance there late in that first half, thankfully missed the target, so we are still 1-0 up early on here in the second half. But Barcelona are keeping possession well here to start off this half. Now Mata gets that out to Rovella, and Pedri now on the ball, just gets there before some of our midfielders do. And now Martinola makes his way down the right-hand side. Good short passing here just inside the final third from Barcelona. And now Rovella in a little bit of space will try and hit the target, just puts that wide. And we are still 1-0 up here, just shy of the hour mark. But we're going to make our first substitution. Radinko Krolo only on a 6.4, so Pedro Lemos can come on for him with just around about 30 minutes left in this game. And we go forward now to the 69-minute mark. We're going to make our second substitution. Now, no highlights since our first one. A few players down to red hearts, but Kalen Rakasan has the worst rating of those. We'll bring on Fabio Mariano for him. Still 1-0 up here with 20 minutes left. And we go forward now to the 80-minute mark. Still just that one highlight so far in the second half. So we do still have a 1-0 lead, but we're going to make our last substitution, Joe Nada, down to a red heart, only on an average rating as well. So Frederick Larson will come on for him for these last 10 minutes. With our last sub, we'll also start the time waste just a little bit, slow the pace down and tell the boys to be more disciplined. And we'll see if anything does happen here inside this last 10 minutes as we do get the ball back here off a throw-in to Barcelona, albeit Pedro Lemos does give possession back there to Barcelona. It gives us flashbacks because Barcelona did grab an equaliser against us in one of those home games, which we did draw a few seasons ago because of something like that. But thankfully that time Carl Vollen with a good point-blank save, and that keeps it at 1-0 with 7 minutes left. And now we have a corner down the other end of our own Ambassador Gay that comes off the post, and it's still 1-0 with only 6 minutes left. And before I can wrap that up, we have another highlight here, a throw-in just inside the Barcelona half. We try and play that forward to Frederick Larson. Can't quite link up. We'll play this deep, and Ali Ramadan will get possession back for us. And now Nicholas Zimmerman is in behind the defence. What can he do there? Tries to curve that top left corner. Just goes wide, and we are still 1-0 up with about 5 minutes left in time for us to properly time waste here and try and hold on to this 1-0 lead. And we've just hit injury time in this first game of the Champions League group stage. We've certainly evened things up stats-wise late in this one, but in the end, it doesn't matter. We did enough there in the first half, that goal to Adam Saki, and we pick up a 1-0 win in the end. Quite an even game, even though for most of it, Barcelona were the better team stats-wise. As I said, we evened things up late in that one, and in the end had twice as many shots on target as they did. They were not clinical enough in front of goal, and we took that big chance that we had, and we pick up a 1-0 win on the road here at the Nou Camp. Our first win over Barcelona so far in this save, and that is a massive one away from home. Hopefully that's going to put us in pole position to take out pole position in this group, because as I said, that's a big 3 points on the road in what will probably be our toughest game of this group stage. And just to confirm what the group does look like off the back of that, we are in second, of course. That's because Ajax picked up a good goal differential against Shakhtar, but that 3 points away at Barcelona, I think, are going to be very, very valuable indeed. So that is a big, big win for us to start off the group stages of this season's Champions League, albeit slightly scrappy, but we pick up a 1-0 win there away at Barcelona. We'll come back shortly, check in on HK in the Europa League and Fylkir in the Conference League before we take on HK in the Icelandic Cup final. And we've gone for 5 days off the back of that first game in our Champions League group, picking up that very good 1-0 win there against Barcelona. I say good in terms of the result anyway, not too sure about the performance, but nonetheless, a win at the Nou Camp. Very, very valuable. And off the back of that, we picked up a 2-0 win away against Half Nafshidor. So that means that we are still top of the table, yet to drop points. We just need one more point, I think, and that should wrap up the league here in Iceland for this season. One more win, I think we'll do it in our last 3 games, and we should do that, hopefully, before we take on HK in our last game of the league, before we take on Ajax in our next Champions League game. Only 2 days off the back of that, but pretty condensed it is now domestically before we do get stuck in solely to Champions League football. But coming up in tomorrow's episode, Ajax and Shakhtar both at home. But this might actually be the last time that we show you guys a game from the Husavik Heroes, because of course our new stadium that's getting built is opening in late November. We're not going to show you guys any more domestic games this season off the back of this one in the Icelandic Cup final. So it might be time to say goodbye to the Husavik Heroes in this game against HK. Before we ever look at HK, we're going to check in on how they did in their first game of the Europa League group stages. And thankfully, they've actually done what you'd expect of them. They took on Ali, which was the team that they did beat in the third qualifying round of the Champions League in both leagues as well. And they continue a good record over those guys this season, picking up a 2-0 win there thanks to goals to Bunson and one of our former players in Vlade Saric. So at the moment, HK are on top of that group, albeit their next 2 games are against Athletic Bilbao and Monaco, which might make things a little bit tougher, but 3 good points there for HK, albeit you'd expect them to get those points after what they did do in Champions League qualifying, as we did cover off in yesterday's episode. So it's probably going to be quite a confident HK team coming into this one, sitting second in the league as well. And we'll also check in on Fylkir in the Conference League, where unfortunately things didn't go so well for them, albeit they had a tough first up game there away at Nice, losing 4-0. So currently bottom of the group, but things should get easier for those guys now, taking on Horsens and Podgorica in their next two games. Also a little bit disappointing that Hercules Delfino has scored there against Fylkir, because we did sell him, of course, to Nice when getting rid of him with the addition of Agatigere into our squad. So that move might have just backfired there a little bit, albeit even without him, I think Nice were going to win that game quite comfortably. So a good start for HK in the Europa League, not so much for Fylkir in the Conference League, but from this point forward for at least a couple of match weeks, they should have some much more winnable games. We are about to take part in the Icelandic Cup final against HK, currently finding themselves second on the league table here in Iceland. As you can see, they are 8 points behind us, but only 3 games left in the season. It's the two teams who next season yet again are going to be in Champions League qualifying, provided that we don't again get put into the group stages automatically, even though we shouldn't be. But it's the two biggest teams in Iceland. I think it's pretty safe to say, after what's been happening here in the past few seasons. A lot of our former players at HK these days as well. A quick look at the team that they put out in their last game, the likes of Gabriel Zapata, they got Werner Bayer and Vlade Saric. So I've got a lot of former Völsungur guys at their club, as well as their club captain there in Mikhail Bedrzicki. So a lot of players we are quite familiar with, doing a good job for them early on in the Europa League, and hopefully they can keep that going and at least make the knockouts of the Conference League. But we've had the wood over them the past few seasons. Hopefully we can keep that up. In terms of the team that we're putting out for this cup final, we have gone with the exact same starting 11 as we did have for that first game of the Champions League against Barcelona. A few changes though on the bench. Abdoulaye Corre comes on. I think I might have glossed over him in the squad overview in yesterday's episode, because he only had 2-star ability, and most of our homegrown club players that you're familiar with had that 2-star ability, but he's on the bench there as he's a little bit less worn out from recent gameplay than some of our other centre-backs. He makes his way onto the bench, as does Ognjen Mizkic, coming back from that injury. Probably can't quite handle 90 minutes just yet, so we'll try and get him involved late off the bench, and it is a shortened bench for this one. So they are joined by Bokek, Basicki, and Agatigere. Someone else I might have forgot to mention in the squad overview in yesterday's episode might have been Filip Jakubov. He's our other backup centre-back, the young 19-year-old with 2-star current ability and 3-star potential, albeit Corre is the one who is registered for the Champions League with slightly higher potential, even though he is a foreigner. That doesn't matter in the Champions League or in these cup games, where we can get away with playing as many foreigners as we like. And the other change that I forgot to mention, Peter Lervik will start in this one. That is because he is our domestic cup goalkeeper these days. Hopefully he can do a good job here and see us win yet another Icelandic Cup, which would be our 11th in the save and our 10th in a row. So we'll be going for 10 straight years of winning the Icelandic Cup if we can pick this one up over HK. And as I said, our last on-camera game, I imagine this is going to be anyway, at the Husavik Heroes before my arena opens in late November, where hopefully we can play Barcelona in the rematch there to kick things off at our new stadium. But it's time to say goodbye to the Husavik Heroes, and hopefully we can do that by picking up yet another Mjólkurbikarinn. We'll come back shortly and try and beat HK yet again. And 7 minutes into this cup final, the first highlight here from the Husavik Heroes. HK pumped that deep, but we get possession back there through Filippo Donelli and start to drive forward here through Kalen Rakasan out to Herrera. And Jonada tries to get something going here down the left-hand side, albeit has to play that back to Ali Ramadan. We've beaten HK in our games against them so far this season, albeit still one left to go in the league. Good chance that for Zimmerman, but unfortunately that shot is quite weak, so it stays at 0-0 here after 8 minutes. But we do have another highlight. This time we go at them down our right-hand side, but Krollo will play that back to Filippo Donelli. But now Lasana Doumbia, a nice ball over there for Kalen Rakasan. But what a save that is from Hendrickson in goal for HK. To die for that and just got a good fingertip to it to get that over the bar. We'll see if anything comes from the subsequent corner. Basaroge just misses the target, and it's still 0-0 after 10 minutes. And only 5 minutes off the back of that previous flurry of highlights, we have another here starting off with a goal kick to HK. It is a poor one though, and we get back on the attack through Jonada. Plays this to Rakasan on the edge of the box. Basaroge in there for Lasana Doumbia. We'll try and unleash one, but that also goes wide, so we're putting a lot of pressure on them here early, but still 0-0 after 15 minutes. And again, only 5 minutes off the back of that previous highlight. Another one, and this time it's a corner, and Basaroge will get on the end of that ball from Lasana Doumbia. rifles that into the top right corner, albeit you couldn't quite see it because of that camera angle that they did show, but Basarogay, good header on that. Finally, we beat the HK goalkeeper and we get our reward 1-0 after 20 minutes. And we have to wait until the 36-minute mark for our next highlight, so we've just stopped a little bit in terms of our momentum since we got that opening goal, but we are still on the front foot in terms of stats. And in this highlight, lovely ball that from Louis Herrera, but that again is a great save from Hendrickson on what looked like a certain goal there for Adam Saki. A big save there. We'll see if anything comes off the subsequent corner. Somehow Basarogay doesn't find the back of the net off that either. The HK goalkeeper doing a brilliant job so far to keep this at 1-0. We have a corner not too long off the back of that though, and I think Basarogay there has been pushed in the back by Kovac, and indeed he's been a threat so far at that near post, and they didn't want to deal with him that time. We get a penalty. Kalen Rakasan will try and put us 2-0 up. The goalkeeper goes the right way, but can't quite get to it, and Kalen Rakasan picks up his 20th goal of the season. We've started this final off in really good touch in this first half, and we have a 2-0 lead 5 minutes shy of half-time thanks to that penalty from Kalen Rakasan. And that is half-time in this Icelandic Cup final. We take a 2-0 lead into the sheds thanks to those goals through Basarogay and from the penalty spot to Kalen Rakasan. And so far, very, very dominant performance. The scoreline could probably be a little bit better in our favour if not for the HK goalkeeper, who is playing quite well, but very happy with how things are going. No changes needed as we kick off the second half with that 2-0 lead. And we have to wait until the 65-minute mark for our first highlight here of the second half. HK try and play a long ball forward over the top, but we get possession back, and Adam Saki is in behind. Has a chance here, but that shot is quite weak. Pretty safe save there for Hendrickson. So still 2-0, but off the back of that, we're going to make some substitutions. Basarogay down to a red heart, playing very well. It will give some game time to Elaine Basicki, and while we're making that change, we might also get Ognjen Miskic back in the mix, get that match fitness up before we play our next Champions League game in tomorrow's episode, so he can come on for Jonada. And those are two of our subs used in 2-0 up with just over 20 minutes left. And very shortly off the back of those substitutions, we do have a free kick here to HK as they try and find a way back into this one, but a poor ball there, and Kalen Rakasan gets possession back for us. They get it back briefly, but Basicki will get possession back for us again, albeit we try and play a ball over there for Adam Saki, and HK back on the attack, albeit inside their own half for now as they try and get this out of defence, and their club captain and former Völsungur man there in Mikael Bedrzicki will play that over the top. Sakwa brings down Filippo Dinelli on a yellow card already. He picks up his second yellow in quite quick succession, and he is off, and now we are playing against 10 men for the latter stages of this one, and we are on the attack as Kalen Rakasan there gets a bit of a shot off. It is blocked in this highlight. Looks like it might continue. Can we make the most of this against 10 minutes? A little bit iffy there, but thankfully Lasana Doumbia does win possession back for us, and can we grab a goal, which would surely seal this for us here. Radenko Krolo fizzes a ball in there, tries to find Miskic, it falls to Rakasan. It's all sorts going on there, but Hendrickson clings on to it, and it's still 2-0 with just under 20 minutes left. And only a few minutes off the back of that most recent highlight, we have another one here starting off with a goal kick to HK, but Filippo Dinelli wins a header, as does Nicholas Zimmerman. So we keep possession here and try and get something by the looks of it. Going down our right-hand side, Filippo Dinelli back in possession, plays that up to Zimmerman. Nice ball over here for Kalen Rakasan, albeit not quite the pace there to get in behind the defence, but we hold the ball here just outside of the box in the HK half. It's a poor pass there, but thankfully Burnson puts the ball over the top. We get possession back. Big chance this for Nicholas Zimmerman, but it comes off the post. Some big chances here to make it 3-0, but we are still only 2 up. And not too long off the back of that most recent highlight, we're going to make our last substitution. I think the player on the bench who could use the game time most is Abdullahi Corre, so he'll come on for Dinelli for these last 13 minutes with that 2-0 lead. And we are just about to enter the last 10 minutes of this one with that 2-0 lead. The HK goalkeeper having a blinder will clear this, and a nice ball over here for Kalen Rakasan. Tries to put that top right corner, but forces a good save out of him. Yet again, he is having one heck of a game. The scoreline could easily be a lot more comfortable in our favour. Lasana Doumbia puts that ball into the mix. They hit it clear to HK, and Radenko Krolo can't link up with anyone, albeit not too long off the back of that highlight. We do have another, and Lasana Doumbia will find Miskic. What can he do? Fresh back into this team, trying to come back from injury. Tries to get a shot off. It's blocked, but we keep possession here inside the HK half, and Elaine Basicki to Radenko Krolo switches this out to the left-hand side. Kalen Rakasan, he will find Louis Herrera. What can he do? Oh, it's a lovely ball that for Lasana Doumbia, puts that in the left corner, and there is a very well-earned assist there for Louis Herrera, of course, in the first half. Put a wonderful ball in there for Adam Saki, but a great save that time from the HK goalkeeper. But this time, nothing that the goalkeeper can do about this one. Nice ball for Doumbia to run onto right on the penalty spot, buries it in the left-hand corner, and that makes it 3-0 with only 8 minutes left in this cup final. And just about to enter injury time in this cup final, it has completely been one-way traffic. HK yet to get a shot on target, only 4 overall. We've had 40. Their goalkeeper has kept the scoreline quite respectable for them, so hopefully he can do the same in the Europa League and keep them near the top of their group. But that is a very, very comprehensive win there, even considering that they did pick up a late red card. But we did enough there in the first half with those 2 goals and kept it off with that nice one to Lasana Doumbia with only about 10 minutes left. And that means that we pick up our 10th straight Mjólkurbikarinn, our 11th one of the save. And that is a nice way to nearly farewell the Husavik Heroes, picking up yet another Icelandic Cup here and over our fiercest rival so far in this save in HK. And back in the inbox off the back of that cup final, as I said, very comfortable win there. Their goalkeeper kept that probably a little bit closer than it should have been, but we pick up the domestic treble, and it should really turn into a quadruple sooner rather than later, as long as we do win our next game against Nuts KR, who currently find themselves 8th on the table. We should pick that up, and then we can just rotate our team around a little bit in the next 2 games, leading into the next one in tomorrow's episode in the Champions League group at home against Ajax. And off the back of that, we have about a 3-week gap before we play Shakhtar at home as well. So definitely targeting 6 points in tomorrow's episode to make the most of that win in Barcelona earlier in today's episode and get a good jump on those guys before we do take them on in the rematch here back in Iceland. And hopefully by that stage, we might be able to secure top spot in the group with maybe a game to spare. But that will do it for today's episode. We pick up a big road win there against Barcelona to start off the Champions League group stage, and also pick up our 11th Icelandic Cup in a row. And as I said, probably the last game that you guys will see from the Husavik Heroes. If you did enjoy today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying this series here on the channel, also remember to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. As I said, tomorrow, Ajax and Shakhtar at home should be 2 games which we can win and make it 9 from 9 to start off this Champions League group stage. And until then, thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.